The Department of Transport launched the Green Transport Strategy today. The Department of Transport's Chief Director of Integrated Transport Planning, Themba Tenza, joins me in studio. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Talk to us about this Green Transport Strategy and what it hopes to achieve in the next 10 years to start off with.
Thank you. The Green Transport Strategy is a strategy that represents many endeavors: cleaner fuels that you use for vehicles, new technologies. It also represents wider roads, less congestion. It represents also encouragement to use, to walk and to use non-polluting mechanisms for mobility where it's possible. It was launched since yesterday and today, and the main story here is to reduce the carbon footprint, to save the environment, and South Africa has to play, transport has to play its role in this endeavor, both in South Africa and internationally. It's a very important strategy for us and for the country.
You can't talk about reducing the emissions and getting people more invested in this without dealing with public transport. We know that over 40% of South Africans use public transport. That's a very big stakeholder in this conversation if you want to see proper change and a move to a cleaner environment. Have you engaged, or are you planning to engage associations like taxi associations perhaps?
Yes. We are engaging them continually, and we are going to do even more now that we have an agreed document that was widely consulted. And even during the launch, we had some partners who are already working with the taxi associations, and they are converting some vehicles so that they can use cleaner fuels. But we have a public awareness campaign that kicks off with going to provinces according to our scheduled times, and then thereafter we respond to the demand per sector. So the public transport sector is a very important sector for us. We know that most people use combis and buses to reach to their place of work. So it's a very important subsector that we're speaking to, and we are working with on this greening of the economy and of transport.
Another sector that you're speaking to is the private sector when it comes to actual electric car makers. Talk to us about the discussions and the collaborations you're having with people like Nissan and BMW.
We have extensive collaborations already with those companies, starting from a long time because of the existing industry engagements on wider matters other than just only green transport. And we have Nissan on board. They produced the Nissan Leaf as the first electric vehicle in the country some years ago, and some of that was partly funded at the beginning because it was a new endeavor. And we have been working with NAMSA, the National Association of Motor Manufacturers and Importers, and even at the launch we had a representative from those. We are working with Toyota. They are demonstrating. At the moment, we are even using some of the vehicles as officials and as participants to understand and know how they work so that we can talk about something that is out there in the market. There are vehicles already out there. What is not there yet is the demand, but also the price is still too high. But we are working with them on how we can also have incentives, and we can also have alternative funding methods, and also smaller cars that are for short distance. They will be for more electric. But we are not only concentrating on electricity. We also have gas vehicles that are using natural gas, which is cheaper and better. Most people think of explosives and danger, but it's not really like that. It's a very light kind of gas that can be used. Some combis are already retrofitted, to be able to use both the conventional fuel as well as gas. So we're talking with different people, and that's what we're talking about.
What kind of conversations have you had with the DTI? Because their director of the automotive unit has said that government views electric vehicles as also perhaps another way of creating jobs and creating incomes, and they would in the future like to take a look at manufacturing electric vehicles here and then have some kind of protectionist policies when it comes to these international cars that we were just speaking about, like Nissan?
True. We have been engaging. There is an intergovernment forum or interdepartmental forum through which we work with the Department of Industry, Trade and Industry. Also, very importantly, with National Treasury, because eventually they are the ones who will do the calculations and the money and the laws to tax where they have to, and to also approve any schemes that we come to. So we are working with the Department of Trade and Industry. What we are working towards now is to have more determined demand models on how far we can go, how many vehicles there can be there, and then they can also look at the revenue base. At the moment, those cars wouldn't bring revenue as much as the others are doing because they are more defined, the older ones. So we have a forum, we are working together, and part of our public awareness campaign now is to institute implementation, is to make sure that everybody can say, this is what we can do, please assist us here, or we can assist you there. So we are working with all departments, especially Department of Trade and Industry on the commercial side, as well as Department of Environmental Affairs on number crunching for showing that we are indeed doing the reductions and there is verifiable evidence.
What kind of upgrades would the Department of Transport specifically need to make, especially on infrastructure? Because one of the criticisms that I was reading about when we're looking at electric vehicles and more in the future, artificial intelligence, is that someone was suggesting that South Africa's transport and road network at the moment can't afford super intelligent cars because our infrastructure is depleted in some areas and our signage isn't good. What do you think of that? And can you tell us about the improvements that you need to make for this GTS to work optimally?
We are very lucky. We have one of the best, maybe number 2 or number 1 in Africa and number less than 5 in the world, SANRA, South African National Roads Agency Limited. They are very good with the engineering as well as contracting and then building of the roads. And for a long time, they were limited only to national roads. But that expertise now is being channeled to try and go towards other roads which are not primary roads so that they can be done up to standard. But the opportunity is really there because that's when we can also change the makeup of the roads themselves. The material that you use, we need longer lasting materials to be able to have roads that are sustainable or that are adaptable to this climate change. So the criticism for now is that we do not have enough roads in secondary roads or smaller roads, but the Department of Transport has a plan for that, a massive plan, because we are also on the side finishing our roads policy that looks at the management of the roads as an asset as well as for utilization by consumers or passengers.
Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Now, the